All right, excellent afternoon to all those who are, connecting with me across the states in Nigeria. Again, I say happy New Year. I pray this year is a year of fulfillment for every one of us. Guys, when you go on a break, you tend to just forget your lines. Yes. But guys, rather than us stand with and I know great slogan for the year 2024, I think it's important for us to better arise as a compatriot by doing our own individual beats and fulfilling our personal obligations towards the greater nation that we all desire to see and we want to live in. I think it's important for us to understand that instead of the I know great slogan and everybody's aggressive on socials and the likes and all of that, it's better for us to understand that living as one in one unity is key for us to continue to progress as one. Again, I say Happy New Year. I remain the convener, the chief host of this platform, Kike Atanda-Owo. Many thanks to all my sponsors and thank you for the partnership with Silverbird platform. Even though we have a little of big bass sometimes, I think it's still good for us to just, continue to partner together. So on this note, I think it's important for us to hear what on this day initial segment asked for us. When I return, the conversation will continue. Stay with me. I'll be right back. Many thanks for staying with me. I think for on this day in history segment today, I just feel that the issue of guns, the issue of war needs to be put to an end so that we can understand that, this 2024, we are still going to get used to talking about the new year and all of that. We all can actually say what can we learn and what legacy are we leaving behind quickly, because I know we are running out of time. Let's hear what let's get a message from my sponsors, and when I return I go straight to the main conversation. Stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with me. Kickstarting the year with insights into these multifaceted dimensions of Nigerians' current state and the roadmap for the year ahead would provide invaluable perspective for our audience, who are keen on understanding the nation's trajectory in 2024. Now, shifting our focus to the direction of the year, direction of the nation, so to speak, in the year 2024, I'm honored to have Ajuri Ngilali, the presidential spokesman to President Tinubu, joining me live via a Zoom link as a seasoned broadcast journalist and, of course, a politician, and Ajuri has a direct perspective from Mr. President and, of course, his vice as well on the economic issues, political, financial affairs of Nigeria, especially with the new budget of the year 2024. On the live show today, my guests will be touching critical points, which includes, shedding light on the key economic initiative and, of course, the policies set forth in the 2024 budget. And furthermore, with our guests is the unique vantage points as the presidential spokesman. He will elaborate on the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's vision for steering Nigeria's economic trajectory in the coming year, and having released the 2024 budget as a new year address. So, as the usual flow, I hope I have my guest on the line now. Ajuri, are you there now?
Yes, I do. Yes, sir. Good day.
Fantastic. It's good to have you. I think it's important for me to, first of all, show your profile to our viewers. And when I come back, the conversation will continue. Stay with me. I'll be right back. This is Real Talk with Kike. All right, many thanks for staying with me. I have Mr. Ajuri on the line with us now. Before I go into the budget or any other area of discussion, I would like to first off ask a question regarding you being the voice of Mr. President on this live show. How would you want to describe the plans and the agenda of the president, and of course the capacity of his cabinet to, flesh out those agenda?
Thank you very much. The agenda of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is multifaceted. It is comprehensive, and it really cuts across all key sectors of the national economy and, of course, national security. I think one of the major elements is we are really working toward restructuring our economy from being one that has been tailored toward the exclusive preserve of the elite class of the society to one that's really tailored toward all classes of society. We are not necessarily trying to, take from the rich to take care of the poor. What we're trying to do is we want everybody to prosper together. We want all social income status, all social income levels in the country to see more. We want rich people to get richer. We also want, our impoverished members of the society to be lifted out of poverty. We want the middle class to become, to have opportunities to access upper middle incomes and obviously elevate themselves into new strata of income, growth. This is really what we're looking at. And how do we do that? We want to build an inclusive economy that's labor intensive. That means we want our banks to be lending more toward the real sector, labor intensive sectors such as agriculture, construction, solid minerals development. Of course, consumer credit, mortgage for housing. We really want to ensure that our economy is not one that is dealing in sectors that are only capital intensive but are not labor intensive. We want to create jobs. We want to create growth. This is the best way to do that.
Many thanks for that submission right there. And still talking about growth, because as far as I'm concerned, growth is necessary on all sectors. But let me still stick. Let me still tailor this conversation to the economic growth, because President Bola Ahmed Tinubu unveiled the 27.5 trillion budget for the year 2024. And education, which is about 2.18 trillion, that's 7.9% of the budget. Health is also 1.33 trillion, which is the 5% of the budget. Defense and security is 3.25 trillion, that's 12% of the budget. For a country like Nigeria with dimensional challenges, because, we have challenges all over, how do you think, Ajuri, the appropriation of funds in the budget will stimulate economic growth?
No, it's a fair question, Kike. I think let's start from healthcare, for example. When we talk about healthcare, it's important to note that the federal budget is only one component of the larger puzzle with respect to how we fund healthcare provision in the country. About 70% plus of the burden of the health care service delivery system in the country is dedicated to the state and local governments, mainly the state, due to the fact that the Constitution clearly stipulates that primary health provision is the obligation of state governments rather than the federal. So you find that a lot of the budgets with respect to health are coming from the state budgets. The federal budget is often one that's dedicated more toward counterpart funding, supporting the states to do what the Constitution has obligated them to do. So on the one hand, yes, it is true that we would all like to see a bit more provision in some of these key human capital development sectors. On the other hand, it's worth noting that we're coming from somewhere. In the last several budgets, the allocation of the federal budget to the health care was about 3%. We have raised that in our first year to 5%. It may not be 15%, it may not be 12%, but it is progress in the right direction. But I do think that the general conversation about how we are financing healthcare, it doesn't really take into account the fact that You have state budgets from across all 36 states of the Federation that are also dedicating a significant portions of their budgets to healthcare. But oftentimes, when the public analysis on healthcare sponsorship is had, the tendency is only to isolate the federal budget. So that's one side of it. The other side of it is in healthcare, is that we have billions of dollars right now coming from the private sector. You have the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. You have the United States government and many Western governments pitching in billions of dollars in the prevention of HIV/AIDS, in the provision of counterpart funding for the establishment of new hospitals across the country. There are so many different elements and streams of healthcare financing that are not part of the federal budget that I think Nigerians can be made aware of, with the help of from our friends in the media. If you look at defense, I think it's also true that when we look at the provision that has been made available, what that does for us is it deals with upgrading our infrastructure, making sure that our men and women in uniform have top flight weapons, different platforms from across air, land, and sea, making sure that we've made new provisions for enhanced pensions, enhanced salaries and bonuses, making sure that we are also using those funds to patronize indigenous companies to develop things as basic as our uniforms, even as we are restructuring the Defense Industries Corporation of Nigeria, DICON, to begin producing indigenous Nigerian-made weapons for the first time really since the 1970s. This has been an ongoing effort that we are now enhancing or increasing the financing to achieve. So there are a lot of things to look forward to. I think when you look at education, very similar to healthcare in the sense that when we talk about basic education, which is the burden of the sector, really where the bulk of the financing is needed. Again, that's another constitutional obligation of the states. The federal government has on its part elevated the allocation to the education sector in the federal budget to really ramp up counterpart funding from the federal government to support the states to enhance education provision in the country. So I guess all of this is to say that in the key human capital, development sectors, you're really looking at a collaboration between the all tiers of government, from the federal to the state to the local, but also factoring in the mobilization of private capital that will also go toward the development of these sectors in a way that may not necessarily come from the government budget, but achieves the same end in terms of the establishment of infrastructure and really upgrading the capacity within those sectors.
Many thanks again for that elaborate submission, but I still want to stick to the health sector, and I like the fact that you've tried to throw light on that, because let me go to health sector in Ogun State for example. It's one doctor to 6,400 patients, according to National Medical Association chairman as of yesterday. Will these budgetary funds of 1.33 trillion naira help increase more doctors in the health sector, or even tackle the problem of our brain drain that is going on currently in Nigeria?
A fantastic question. So I'm excited to perhaps break some news on your program that the budget also includes this issue in the health sector of human capital recruitment to deal with exactly the problem you have just laid out. One of the elements that we have put in place in 2024, and a commitment we are making to Nigerians, so live on your program, is that by the end of this year, that is by the end of 2024, within one calendar year, January 1 to December 31st, we will be training 120,000 frontline workers, health workers, across the entire country. That is across all local government areas of the Federation. That is also going to be financed, not even by federal government budget or even by state government budget. That is going to be financed by the Global Health Fund, which is a conglomeration of Western governments and philanthropic donors that are providing billions of dollars in financing for the upgradation of healthcare staff and workforce in various countries. We are going to partake from that outside of government's budgeted resources to finance the training of 120,000 health workers in this country. These are midwives. These are people who are going to be working in our local governments and our community health centers. That is going to be achieved in this year alone. In addition to that, within the 2024 health sector, within the federal budget for the health sector of 2024, you can also expect a collaboration between the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, NSIA, and the Federal Ministry of Health under the leadership of the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Dr. Pate, who is going to be coordinating the construction of 6 cancer centers across every geopolitical zone of the country, 1 in each geopolitical zone. These are going to be world-class cancer centers. And we're also going to be upgrading 20 federal teaching hospitals across all geopolitical zones of the Federation within this 2024 federal health budget alone, in addition to many others. So there's really a lot for Nigerians to look forward to with respect to, healthcare provision, not just at the state level, but also at the regional and national levels from this 2024 budget of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Thanks for that insight right there. I have 2 questions for you based on all your submission thus far, because the proposed budget for the agricultural sector in Nigeria for the year 2024 is about 362.9 billion naira. However, some stakeholders have criticized this amount as being too low or insufficient to support the sector's growth and employment potential. That's my first question to you, Ajuri. My second question to you is human capacity development, which is another area that I feel that we have seen the president's encouragement. We have seen him praise Funke Akindele in the arts industry and praise even those abroad like the pharmaceutical scientists. That's Ijoma, which was before the end of the year, Ijoma Uchegbe from Cambridge University, and so on. And in direct terms, what is the plan and what are the tangible actions that this administration is taking to further enhance the potential of our human capacity in Nigeria? Because we all know that wherever Nigerians go all over the world, they all talk about our capacity and potentials. How is this administration going to enhance that potential of our human capacity in this country?
Thank you very much, Kike. It's a very important question. I think the first point of reference is the fact that you're 100% correct when you cite the reality that internationally around the world, in pretty much every country of the world, even those countries that are not English speaking, you find that whenever Nigerians enter into companies, enter into industries, we rise to the top. We're CEOs, we're MDs, we're chief medical directors, we're top attorneys, top accountants, top scientists, top professors in every country. And the reason why that is because we are innately hardworking people, and Nigerians have been blessed with intellectual brilliance as well. So I think one of the things that our administration is focused on is ensuring that our people don't have to go to the UK. They don't have to go to China. They don't have to go to Russia and the United States and Saudi Arabia and Dubai in order to maximize their potentials and manifest all that they are capable of doing. We want to unlock that in the country, which is why Mr. President is very keen on nationalizing what he achieved in Lagos State with respect to opening up or democratizing access to education in this country at the tertiary level, at the university level. It's no longer a secret that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in keeping with his campaign promise and manifesting that promise, that he has signed into effect the National Student Loan Program, which is really going to be revolutionary for millions of Nigerian households, of families that are disadvantaged, families that may not be able to afford to send their child who's talented, who's brilliant, who's capable to university. We are now saying we're going to take that burden off of those millions of families. We're going to ensure that students are going to be assessed not on the income level of their fathers and mothers, but on the basis of what they can achieve in the classroom. And this is why we are going to be financing their education and giving them repayment plans that are not based on putting undue pressure on them when they finish, but based on the reality of when they are employed. They will not be repaying their student loans until they are employed and in a position to repay. And even when they begin repayment, it's going to be based on, a very affordable repayment plan, not one that is loaded with interest rates and so many negative elements, burdensome elements that we see in some other countries. We want to really remove all of that for our Nigerian students. That's step number one. Step number two is ensuring that it's one thing to talk about access to education. It's another thing to talk about enhancing the quality of education, which is why our administration is investing massively, not just through the TED Fund, but also through partnering with private sector institutions to ensure that our academic institutions, the facilities they're using, our science laboratories, our computer laboratories, these things are totally, outfitted and transformed with the latest of technology. This is something that we're very passionate about, and that's also factored in to the TED Fund's budget, but also to the 2024 education budget. And where we have state-run universities, we are also encouraging them with various incentive packages to ensure that they are able to upgrade the infrastructure within their facilities so that our children do not need to go to the UK in order to have a world-class science education or robotics education or artificial intelligence education. They can have it here. And have institutions that can employ them when they finish. We have companies coming into the country, with the new Google headquarters, for example. Facebook is doing the same, and many other major, multi-billion-dollar IT firms are coming into Nigeria because they recognize that the talent is here. We need to continue to encourage that with the combination of tax incentives and the combination of economic reforms that would ensure that while we are preparing our children by enhancing their access to university and education and enhancing their access to quality education, that we're also incentivizing companies to come into the country so that they can employ our young people and give them the world-class skills required to enable them compete in the international global economic race. And then the final thing I would add to that is that President Bola Tinubu, as you know, has been very aggressive, the most aggressive president we have ever seen in the history of our country, military or civilian, with respect to going out to the international community and actively promoting and attracting foreign direct investment. When you attract those industries, you attract those facilities, those factories, these are the institutions that are going to provide the bulk of the employment required by our very brilliant young people who are coming into the workforce. And this is the focus of our administration.
All right, many thanks again for that elaborate submission. Let me use this opportunity to quickly open our phone lines. For those who are just tuning in, this is Real Talk with Kike, and the first edition of Real Talk with Kike for the year 2024 that started from the presidency. And I have the presidential spokesperson who is also the special advisor on media and publicity, Mr. Ajuri, who has been throwing light on a lot of issues, who has also been providing perspective on the economic, political, and of course the financial affairs of Nigeria, especially with the new budget for the year 2024. And he has touched on critical points which included the key economic initiatives and policies that are set forth in the 2024 budget, especially when it comes to training as well, and all of that. All of that will be aired on YouTube as well. So in the next half of the show, I will be having more real talk on areas like politics, corruption, economic inflation, and so on. And I must say many thanks, to Ajuri for all that you've shared thus far on this platform. But quickly, for those who are just tuning in, remember that you can be part of this conversation by calling the studio number 080-988-77400. It's showing on your screen right now. And of course, we're streaming live on Facebook, on YouTube, both on Real Talk with Kike platform and of course on Silverbird platform. Ajuri, thank you so much, for all that you've shared thus far. But there's a massive inflation rate in the country that we cannot ignore, because we had it as high as over 30% in the last fiscal year. And the inflation rate in Nigeria is expected to moderate to about 21.4% in 2024, according to the Nigerian government's projection. This is the question of the Nigerian people. What is Mr. President doing with his own economic team to address this? Because the people are finding it unbearable. People are facing a lot of challenges. I like to use the word challenges, not problem, on this platform. What's your answer to this?
Thank you very much. There's no question that we are in the midst of a very difficult economic time. There's no issue that is more fundamental to the president's thinking. There's nothing he thinks about more when he wakes up in the morning and when he goes to sleep at night than the hardships being faced by our people right now through really a combination of various factors, including obviously the fact that we hadn't even fully recovered from the COVID-19 pandemic before we had crises in the Middle East and Europe, which led to obviously energy and food costs rising around the world, which has had the effect of having rising interest rates around the world, meaning that debt is more expensive than ever before as interest rates on repayment have gone up for countries around the world, including Nigeria. There are so many factors. You combine that with what I believe Nigerians really altogether understand to be a very critical set of economic reforms by Mr. President, though very painful, in the form of the removal of the fuel subsidy and the ongoing unification of the foreign exchange rates in the country. I think that Nigerians appreciate the fact that these are reforms that are necessary and that we needed to take immediately. I think what is key, though, is that we appreciate the patriotic resolve of Nigerians to endure this very difficult moment for the long-term health of the country. We are using the funds that are being saved from the removal of the fuel subsidy to develop a consumer credit system that will ensure that our people no longer have to pay years of rent in advance or purchase a house outrightly with cash that is being gotten through fraudulent means. These are things we want to remove those burdens from our people by ensuring that within their legitimate incomes, they're able to build a life that is comfortable, that is sustainable, and that will not tempt them to go into some of these sharp practices with respect to corruption. So if you can have, for example, a person earning 200,000 naira a month, able to now pay 25,000 naira a month on a monthly basis for a number of years, for a 5 million naira house, for example, for him and his family, you will know that that will totally transform the life of his family and to transform the living standard of himself and his loved ones. In addition to that, we can do the same with cars. There's no reason why we can't provide a 4 million naira car manufactured at 3 million or whatever the case may be to a man or a woman in this country on a repayment plan that will allow him to pay another 15 to 20,000 naira a month within his legitimate income to have that car. This is the future we want to build, consumer credit rather than enforcing our people to pay outrightly with cash for everything that they're doing. But it takes money. It requires a lot of money, a lot of government capital to be able to achieve a consumer credit system. So we had to get that money from somewhere. One of the areas we're able to get that money from is the removal of the fuel subsidy and the savings we've been able to obtain through that. In addition to that, the enhancement of tax revenues in the country is something that this administration is very keen on. Obviously, Mr. President achieved it in Lagos. He's going to do it again nationally. But we are not focused on enhancing anybody's pay. We're not saying that people should pay more tax than they're paying right now. What we are saying is that those who are not paying tax must begin to pay tax. No matter how small, you must begin to pay tax. We cannot have the level of world-class service that all of us want in this country if we are unwilling to pay for it. When we go to the UK, we pay out of the small money we're making in a job, as a janitor or as whatever job we have in the UK, US, or wherever. Whatever income we have, we're paying tax, no matter how small, on that income to be able to enjoy the nice roads in those countries, to enjoy security, to enjoy water, to enjoy all the basic essentials of life. we have to begin to do the same thing in this country. And the president's compact with our people is that when we pay our tax, when we do our part, government will ensure that the enabling environment with infrastructure, with security, and all of that is also going to be put in place so that there's give and take.
All right, many thanks for that elaboration. We have Tolu from Lagos calling. Tolu, what's your contribution on the topic at hand? Please go straight to the point.
Is that am I on the program?
Yeah, on Real Talk with Kike. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Please, the question I want to ask is that what is the way forward? Is there any hope for the country? The way this is going? That's the question. Thank you.
All right, apologies. Okay, they are asking what's the way forward. But quickly, let me come to you, Ajuri, before you answer what the way forward is. Because with all that you've shared thus far, I wish I have the time to actually talk about, the highest allocation of the National Assembly this year in the last 25 years, that is about 344.85 billion naira, so to speak. But I'm trying to manage time right now. I have two questions for you, but let me first of all ask you this question. Going into political affairs, notable Nigerians and legal practitioners have criticized President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for getting involved with Wike and Fubara clash in Rivers State rather than allowing the law address the matter in the state. I need your perspective, because the political strategy of the president is unifying, if you ask me, and aims at issue resolution. Well, what are your remarks with the vision of the president in the political sphere of this country, especially when it comes to Rivers State challenges?
Thank you very much, Kike. Of course, I approach this question with two hats. On the one hand, as the official spokesperson of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and on the other hand, as a son of Rivers State. I am from Eleme local government area. What happens in the state certainly matters to me. And I would say that it is unfortunate, obviously, that you have this consistent trend of political upheaval and turmoil in Rivers State. There's an orientation amongst the political class in our state that I think is unhealthy, that I think is something that is more unique to our state, something you don't often see in many other states, whereby, if you recall, just over a decade ago, you had two political gladiators fighting it out, and you had somebody almost lose their life within the hallowed chambers of the Rivers State House of Assembly with the use of the sacred mace being hit across somebody's head. This is now being succeeded by a situation in which a House of Assembly has been burned down and eventually demolished. Obviously, we don't know who was behind the burning down of the Assembly, but the point is that there is a need for Rivers State to be represented on the national stage in a way that is much better and much more dignified than what we have seen in recent years. I think it's incumbent upon all political actors from that state to really step up their game with respect to how they represent the brand of Rivers State and the nature of our people. Rivers people are very brilliant people, though. Very brilliant people, honorable people, dignified people. They go about their business. They don't make trouble. Unfortunately, that is not how our leadership has always reflected us. But I think that the president is in good order by stepping in, saying, look, it is not necessarily a political calculation on his part. He is the father of the nation. He is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. His primary responsibility is ensuring that, our people across this country are safe and secure. In what was happening in Rivers State, it was devolving into a situation where you had masses of people mobilizing on the street, sometimes with weapons, in defense of whichever political gladiator they were representing. The president said, no, we're not going to have clashes, violent clashes, people being armed to engage in political warfare on the street. We are going to ensure that we tamp that down. And so he intervened, made sure that he enforced peace amongst the various actors in the state. And as a result, the state is much more peaceful today. That is his primary responsibility. Whatever political outcome is secondary and really immaterial to the fact that state deserves to be a peaceful one. And that is what the president has achieved.
Many thanks again for throwing light on the issue at hand. But in the last administration, former President Buhari fought corruption till the last hours in office. Yes, because this administration, we have been seeing President Tinubu's resolve to fight the corruption endemic in our country. We have seen, we have the prosecution of former CBN Governor Emefiele as well. We have seen the suspension of Betta Edu. I will come to that in my trending section. But do we think, or do you think that the same route, President Buhari followed, and this administration will likewise kill the corruption cancer, for lack of a better word right now, Ajuri, or other measures will be more suitable, using the Betta Edu's case as issue as a case study?
This is a very important issue. I want to just use this opportunity to touch on something that you mentioned very briefly in your introduction to the last question, which is you mentioned the highest allocation to the National Assembly. I want to just be very clear about something. If you recall, in approximately 2011, 2012, there was, this furor over, National Assembly allocation. I think at that time it was about 100 billion or 120 billion or so. I think it's important for all of us to have the perspective of the context of what has happened since then. We have a situation whereby the Naira has been devalued substantially since then, right, as a result of so many different factors that I don't think can be pinned to any one administration or government. But the reality is what it is. It has been significantly devalued. When you take into account the devaluation of the currency and inflation, and you look at what has been allocated to the National Assembly, you find that what it was in 2010, 2011, 2012, if it is not the same as it was then, it may even be a little bit lower based on the rate of devaluation. But I will say that what we do need to do is not so much focus on the number that goes to the National Assembly. What we need to do, as particularly in the media, is to scrutinize how those funds are being expended. Are those funds being expended in a way that is reflective of the interests and desires and aspirations and developmental objectives of the Nigerian people? If so, fantastic. Then it's not the concern will not be how much. The concern will be what is the impact. And I think that should be the question that we ask about government moving forward, is not necessarily about how much, what is being devoted to what, but what is the impact? Is it bloated? Is it being diverted, or is it going to what we say it's going to? Because if this money is being well spent, on constituency projects, on providing legislation and effective oversight over the executive branch, for example, in the execution of MDA projects, then that money will be well spent. But if it's not, then we can now be looking at why the numbers are the way they are and how we should reduce them. But I think we should be looking at impact. To your second question on corruption, my sister, I would just say that the core issue for us is about prevention. Yes, it's good to get billions of dollars worth of asset recovery and to achieve asset recovery and prosecute and all of that. That's all great. But what we need to focus on as well is reforming our institutions in such a way that we make it impossible for people to be diverting money through the system. As you rightly mentioned, the president has been removing officers left and right across the sectors because he's determined to restructure the way government is run in our country. Nobody in recent years had seen a minister be suspended on the basis of such an allegation, not to speak of having the EFCC be directed to investigate that officer. Ministers traditionally are close associates of a president, right? Traditionally. So it's not something you often see, but the president has said, look, friendship aside, closeness aside, we are going to do what is right in the interest of the Nigerian people. And if you have not heeded my warnings, then you will have to pay the price. And that is basically where we're at. But we don't want to assume that anybody is guilty. It is an investigation. We don't yet have the concrete black and white facts as to whether the minister who was suspended is guilty. So we should allow the investigation to be conducted before we come to any conclusions. And this is what I would ask of the media and ask of Nigerians.
Right, many thanks again for all your elaborate submission thus far. This is my last question to you before we go on trending. And on a mild note, with all that you've shared thus far, I believe that I should ask you this question because you have worked with two different principals, the former administration and the current one. How would you, comparatively, give the actual reflection of the commitment and the capacity from both principals towards hope for the greater Nigeria that we want to see today? Tell Nigerians in 1 minute, because we need to quickly wrap up and go to the next segment. In one minute, how do you compare both? Because you felt both worlds, so to speak.
So I would say this. I would say that these are two different presidents with two different backgrounds and two different ways of conducting the office. President Muhammadu Buhari was a man of government. He was a lifelong military official whose experience was essentially solely a public sector experience. President Bola Tinubu is a professional accountant who is trained primarily and operated primarily in the private sector. So the way that they understand public service delivery, service delivery are very different. I think President Tinubu's focus is less about, notions of loyalty, notions of, intra-government collaboration, and more about results-oriented governance, results-driven governance, meaning that if you don't get the result I'm looking for, you are gone. I don't care who you are. It's a different paradigm. I would say this, though. President Muhammadu Buhari revolutionized the country with respect to infrastructure provision. 5 new international airports, 2 new high-speed rail lines, the first new deep-sea port developed in our country since the 1970s, the new AKK gas pipeline, new refineries. He did so much in terms of infrastructure. But did he have his weak points? I'm sure Nigerians would agree that there are areas, particularly with the mismanagement of the Central Bank of Nigeria and some others, that he wishes it would have been done differently. I think Bola Tinubu's focus now is going to be on how to enhance and improve on what Mr. President Buhari left behind, and what he can do in terms of elevating infrastructure and ensuring that those weaknesses of the previous government are not repeated in his government.
All right, many thanks, Ajuri, for all that you've shared thus far. It's been an interesting time with you on Real Talk with Kike. But, before I let you go, there's this last trending stories that affect you and I as Nigerians. And the first trending story that I will be touching on right now quickly is the alleged, 585 million fraud. The EFCC invites suspended humanitarian affairs minister Betta Edu. And I want to quickly say this. I know that we are running out of time. First and foremost, this is absolutely disappointing as a woman to think that such a gross allegation can be made for a woman in Tinubu's cabinet. Personally, demoralizes me because I'm one of those who are, fervently, rooted or root for women inclusion with all my chest, and I've spoken about it severally on many platforms, beyond mine, on other platforms that I've been invited to. It says, I say it as an allegation for now because she's currently being suspended and probed, However, it still raises questions of doubt, transparency, commitment to the office she swore to serve Nigerians in. The amount, alleged that was transferred to a personal account to the tune of about 585 million naira is humongous, if you ask me. Having listened to analysis, or analysts across board, I think that she flouted the process and the protocol for handling such amount of funds. She was a former minister and is expected to have an experience with dealing with such funds in public office, if you ask me. So at first, she was blamed for disregarding the process and the signature of such amounts of funds. There were no other signatories that were even meant to even approve such amount of money. Let me further break it down, because the social development and poverty reduction program gets about 534 billion naira. That's 2% of that budget, which is provisioned for social investment and poverty reduction programs. This is a huge fraction of the budget, if true. This is very undignifying. Here is another defense that she said. She says an approval memo from the Office of the Accountant General of Nigeria that dated about December 20th of 2023 titled Mandate for Payment Grants to Vulnerable Groups in Akwa Ibom, Cross Rivers, Lagos and Ogun State respectively. And after reading that, she also said that, with all that was said, she said that I hereby approve the payments, for accumulative sum of 585 million and 180 I think 89,500 naira. So that's about 585 500,000 naira. What am I saying now quickly? I need to correct myself. But these are payments for programs and activities of the Renewed Hope grant for vulnerable groups. If you ask me, a jury, detailed provided shows that 2023 grants for vulnerable groups in Akwa Ibom State, for instance, about over 219 million. And grants for vulnerable groups in Cross River is over 783,000, over 784,000 if you ask me. I hope I'm quoting all these figures right, because, grants for vulnerable groups also in Lagos was over 219 million. And grant for vulnerable groups in Ogun State is about 72 million naira, with total of that 585. So, however, she hasn't come clean by all indication, which has made the president to suspend pending the probe. I have to put that allegedly, because it will be disheartening to just accept that in an economy where there is high poverty and alarming inflation, and an office created to make social investments and elevate poverty, would do such.
Please. Yes, thank you very much. For want of time, thank you very much. I want to just say that I appreciate your passion on this issue. I appreciate the passion of Nigerians on this issue. It is an unfortunate situation that has evolved. His Excellency, Mr. President, is very aware of the facts of the matter, and it is on this basis that he has requested the EFCC chairman to investigate all transactions related to this matter. The suspended minister is currently being interrogated by the EFCC today. So I think we should allow the institutions of our government to work, allow them to do what they are constitutionally enabled and empowered to do. And we should, I think, allow that process to play out before we get into any kind of speculative conversations around what may or may not have happened. What I think is fair to say is that the president has seen enough to know that he felt that the minister needed to step aside in order for this investigation to be conducted. With respect to how you may be feeling in terms of the push for women empowerment, for youth participation as well, because youths are affected by this. I would say that we should learn in the country, and I'm not talking about you as an individual. I think generally that it's not so much about our gender. It's not even about our age. It's about who we are as people. That you can have an 80-year-old who is immature, and you can have a 25-year-old who's very wise and very mature. So it's really about the person. It's not about age or gender. In my view, this kind of a situation could happen to a young person, an old person, a middle-aged person, a man, a woman. It can happen to anybody. So let that not be the focus. I think for every woman who may be entering this situation in government, there are 10 women in government who are doing very well, who are not being celebrated at all, not even being mentioned. DGs of agencies doing a fantastic job, even in history. When you look at, people like, our dearly missed former minister and DG of NAFDAC. Oh yes, Dora Queely, for example. You know that we have had some very serious women, and we've also had people like Desiani. It depends, right? So our point is that it's about the person. It's not so much about your gender or about your age, and our focus is finding people of the right character and of the right level of competence in order to administer the renewed hope agenda of our administration. And the president is going to continue to weed out anybody who proves incompetent or found wanting in character in his government. And he's going to continue to promote those who do well within his government. That is the way that he works. That's what he did in Lagos. And we can see what Lagos has become from 1999 to date with that formula. This is what we have in store for the country under his leadership.
All right, many thanks again, Ajuri, for all that you've shared us. So unfortunately, I cannot take the second trending story because we've run out of time. And I want to say thank you so much for creating time to be here as my resourceful guest today, throwing a lot of light on issues that affect you and I. I wish you the very best as you continue to forge ahead in your career path. And of course, serve Nigerians with all honesty. That is something I can say about you. Well done. Until our paths cross again, because I will be bringing you back on this platform, I wish you the very best as you continue to build your career positively and serve us with all honesty. This is Real Talk with Kike, and this is where I draw the curtains of the show. Bye now.
Oh.